All right, welcome back, everybody. Continuing this conversation, a very interesting one. The Democratic Alliance yesterday released its first draft policy document titled Values and Principles. So the economic justice policy statement is the first of the three draft policy documents. The three documents are all still in draft stage, including this one that we're talking about, and they'll be circulated to DA structures for them to give input to the DA's policy conference that's going to be held in April this year. So in studio with us, let me reintroduce our guests to you, and I'm sure you're very familiar with them. We've got Khanyi Magubane, who is a political analyst, and the Democratic Alliance's John Moodey. So I want to wrap up this little section and move on to other issues. You said something so interesting about this policy document and actually, you know, who creates it, then who has to implement it, and the talk around it. Yes. Can you just tell us this now?
I was saying earlier that I'd be interested to see who sits with Gwen Ngonya in the war room or in the policy crafting room. You know, I'd love to see issues of representation. Do they have people from the squatter camps, from the RDPs, the constituents in the townships? Do they have representatives who are influencing policy direction, who are sitting in those rooms and they're flagging certain things? Because ultimately we always need to, shape our policy towards pro-poor policies, and what we have now is something that feels like a document that somebody's going to review and make little notes on the side and hand it back to the people that drafted it. And it shouldn't be that. I think it should be interrogated thoroughly. I think the DA shouldn't be afraid to walk out of the policy conference with a very different document, that is worded differently. And I think, platforms like this also give the DA an opportunity to get feedback, because they've put out the draft policy and now people have to make, their own views heard. And I think the DA needs to take that in so that in their policy conference, they're not defending a stance.
Yes.
So it's not about them defending what's in there, because they've got issues of free market economy, issues of opportunity. It's an exhaustive document that says more than just race, but it also talks about how the DA plans to deal with issues of the economy, what their views are on inequality, what their views are on, on the colluding of power in the country. That's something that we didn't even get into. Your cabals, 95% of the economy is still sitting in white hands.
Indeed.
And the free market economy section of that document feels like it's protecting the white armor, because it's saying that government should only come in to regulate competition. It should come there to ensure that people don't collude power. But government should be doing so much more to reject race and reject quotas in itself. That is the most problematic part of the policy document. And I'm hoping that the members of the DA are really going to interrogate
and listen to these kind of comments. I mean, I know a bit earlier, Khanyi gave us the great example of standing on the bricks, and you yourself also complimented that analogy, saying, unfortunately, what's happened is that people have come down as opposed to moving up. Now, I'd like to dispute that, because just as Khanyi said, you have seen people in these years of democracy, and we talk to, let's just look at Stellenbosch, for example, just those guys, they've gotten even more wealthy during this time. Nothing has been distributed. It's still sitting in the hands of the minority. And how can we all start on an equal footing where these last few years have not helped in any way?
I agree with you on that score. There is this practice where they say stand against the wall. Those who come from a single parent or two from a household, both parents take a step forward. Those type of things which indicates the handicaps that we have in life, or the privileges that we have in life. And then when you turn around, you'll see how many of our people remain behind. That's a very practical way of doing it. But it speaks to the realities of who we are in South Africa. Now, the policy is not just drafted by Gwen and a group of bureaucrats. There are politicians involved as well in the drafting of this document. We're the only party that, at this stage, has released it for public consumption, for the very reason that we want to hear the critique that you've given over here. It is for us now to take it down to all our structures and to our constituents to say, this is what we have. It's our contract with you. This is it. We have the framework. Do you agree? Don't you agree? And for us to actually interrogate it, actually tear it apart, quite frankly, and look at how do we construct something that is acceptable to all South Africans. Our economic policy, of course, will be fleshed out even further in the next document that comes out, Chair. But we need to have a framework a platform from which we move forward.
John, let's talk about leadership now, because there's a lot of trouble in leadership. And one thing I have noticed during this interview, you have not shied away from the fact that there are major problems and issues within the DA. And that, I think you have spoken to that head on. But my question to you is, are you throwing your cap in? Are you going to go for that position of the leader of the DA? There are rumors out there.
I'm consulting with my family about this as well. It's not just about what I want to do or need to do. I need to have my family's backing, absolutely. Having been the leader of the DA in the province of Gauteng, which is the new frontier, it's been the frontier, quite frankly, in every election, has taken a lot of time away from my family, and they sacrificed a lot. If I have their blessing, I'm definitely in this race because I'm here for a purpose. I want my grandchildren to be around when I grow very old. I don't want my children to leave South Africa, and we see it happening on a daily basis. There's so much potential in this beautiful country of ours. We must just get our act together and make it work. There's nothing wrong with South Africa that can't be fixed by us as South Africans. And that is the premise from which I move.
Yeah. You know, the one thing about the DA is in previous years, it's difficult to look at it now after these last couple of months. The DA have always put themselves on a pedestal and always taken the moral high ground. However, the DA, former leaders at this point, are now mudslinging in the public. I mean, we had over the weekend your former leader, Mosimain Mani, calling your leader Judas Steenhuisen. And that opened up a can of worms. And then, of course, jumping into it is Caleb Kachalia, an MP, going and throwing mud all over. And, I mean, this is having... In fact, I'm surprised that your logo is still nice and shiny and blue, and it should actually be brown at this point, because this is what's going on. And it's almost playing into the hands of those people that have always been suspecting the issues in the DA. What's really going on inside there?
Leanne, you know, I try and steer far away from social media platforms in which to raise and have arguments with my colleagues, because I disagree with many, and there's many that agree with me. But it is most devastating when we take it out into the public domain. And that is what has caused our demise in 2019, more than anything else. As you indicated, it was those own goals. I don't appreciate this type of thing, to be honest with you. It goes against who I am. And politics is a dirty game, they say. You have a choice to be dirty, but there's one thing you don't have a choice in, that is to be dirtied. People will throw mud at you. I get into this race, believe you me, out on social media. I expect it to come. But I'm here for a purpose. And I will not shy away from taking whatever comes my way, head on, because I'm about our people, and I believe in my party being for all our people. There are individuals who may think differently, but I honestly believe that the vast majority of the members of the Democratic Alliance are here because we really want to build a better South Africa for all.
Khanyi, let me give this to you.
Yes. Well, you know, I think that the DA needs to go back to the drawing table and think about who it appoints as its leaders, because it's not good that all of your mayors, you know, within a space of 2 years have basically been ousted. And also you must remember the ANC is baying for blood. So they really are having a target on their back because they want them out of power, because they want to regain the metros, you know, that the DA took. And right now, I don't think it's going to be a walk in the park for the Democratic Alliance in re-electing a new mayor for the city of Tshwane. I mean, I don't want to put John on the spot and ask him who the new
candidate will
who's
be.
the candidate.
Who is the candidate?
Who is the candidate? Can you tell
We
us?
go through processes.
I love these political
so.
processes.
Political process.
exactly.
So while the political process goes on, I think that the leader, Helen Zille, needs to look at stabilizing the provinces.
Can I correct you there? She's not the leader leader. She's the Federal Council Chair.
Okay, the chair, Madam Chair, if I can call her that. It's important for her to come in and, exercise her authority and leadership, even if she did come in at a very difficult time when she lost two of her, important men, Musi and Herman Mashaba. And it was hard for her. I remember her face, in the press conference. She took it personally.
I caught a plane with her that night. I saw her on that plane.
But I'm hoping that she's had a chance, to deal with it. And I just want to see the DA stabilizing itself, thinking about who it goes into bed with in its coalitions, because some of its biggest political losses have come from coalition choices that have gone wrong. We've seen the EFF at times turning against the DA, and saying we're going to vote with the ANC, changing direction. And that's the danger of coalition. Nobody's bound to a position. We agree to work together, but anyone can change direction at any time.
Love this conversation. I really have, John. We look forward to many more of these exchanges with you. And Khanyi, thanks for your incredible views as well. This was the DA's John Moodey and political analyst Khanyi Magubane talking to us about the party's draft policy documents that the party is releasing to the structures. And of course, this is all to give input ahead of its policy conference that's happening in April. The first draft released yesterday is on values and principles. Let's take a break. We'll see you after this.